Hello everybody, it's a Vertical Sandwich. Welcome back to Book Reviews. So, right now, this is the 69th Hugo Award winner we will talk about. Is the award winner from 1972. By the way, when I started the list of Hugo Award winners, I was like, I'm going to read all Hugo Award winners. It was, I think, 68 books. And now it's 70. 2 award winners have been announced while I was reading Hugo Award winners. So there is another book that has been announced. It is a memory called Empire. There may actually be other book reviews in between that, because I haven't even started it yet. But this review will probably broadcast months from when. I mean, there'll probably be snow outside when this review goes up, because I'm pretty far ahead. Because I'm trying to take advantage of the weather before I have to move this inside again. So, and we have been doing these reviews for a year and a half. So, almost 2, and that's pretty crazy in and of itself, that I've kept up a weekly habit for that long. Says the guy who's been posting more than 1 video a day for 9 years on YouTube. So, To Our Scattered Bodies Go was one of the earliest reads in this list. I had read it before I even started the list. When I was looking down, I was like, that sounds familiar. So it is book 1 of the Riverworld series, and I am not actually going to, I'll talk about the series in general, but I'm not going to review the other books. And the reason is because it's one of those old school series that has ancillary books to it, and only the first book won. So here's my experience. I read the original 4 books of the Riverworld series. There's a conclusive 4-book series. So To Our Scattered Bodies Go and The Fabulous Riverboat are included in this book, the Riverworld. And my experience is this. The first 2 books are amazing. Well, they're good. The first book's good. The second book is amazing. The third book is pretty good, and then the fourth book is horrible. That being said, let's just read the back cover of this thing. Imagine that every human who ever lived, from the earliest Neanderthals to the modern man, is resurrected after death on the banks of an astonishing and seemingly endless river on an unknown world. They are miraculously provided with food, but with not a clue to the possible meaning of this strange afterlife. And so billions of people from history and before must start living again. Some set sail on the great river, questing for the meaning of their resurrection, and to find and confront their mysterious benefactors. On this long journey we meet Sir Richard Francis Burton, Mark Twain, Odysseus, Cyrano de Bergerac, and many others, most of whom embark upon searches of their own in this huge afterlife. To Our Scattered Bodies Go won the Hugo Award for Best Novel, and all of Farmer's subsequent Riverworld novels went on to hit the New York Times bestseller list. So, this won in 1972, and the first book, the idea is that everybody who has ever lived wakes up one day, and they have been resurrected on this world, and all there are cliffs around them, and this river, and on the banks of the river there is this thing that looks like a stone. And they have a metal pot, and if they put it in the stone, like twice a day, lightning zaps it, and then inside is food and tobacco and everything they kind of need. And yeah, so the first book is the protagonist is Sir Richard Francis Burton. And here's the thing: you should check out Richard Francis Burton, because Richard Francis Burton was one of those guys who you just go who does that? He's like when you read a biography of Teddy Roosevelt, and you're this was a sickly kid, and he just just explored unnamed rivers and got shot and delivered a speech the same day and stuff like that. And you go, this is mind blowing. And Richard Francis Burton, same way. He spoke a ridiculous amount of languages. He searched for the source of the Nile and failed to find it. And he was one of the first Westerners to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. So he disguised himself. He studied Arabic and stuff to the point where he could pass himself off. And at the had he been caught sneaking in to as an infidel, he would have been murdered. I mean, he would have been killed. I guess murder. He would have suffered capital punishment. And legal killing is not murder. Murder is illegal killing. And by the way, and there's a famous story about that where people said that somebody had saw that he was I want to say I don't remember if it was I like saw that he was um circumcised or uncircumcised, whichever one would have been inappropriate. While he was urinating, and that he had to kill a man while he was on this pilgrimage, and he addressed that rumor and said, "That's ridiculous. Like, why would I commit murder, which I surely would have been killed for, to prevent the discovery of something that I may or may not have been?" He's like, that is a ridiculous story. So if you've heard that story, that didn't happen. But yeah, so he was just a man filled with, like, I think he was the first person to translate, like, the Arabian Nights, or maybe, like, but yeah, I mean, just look into it. Like, the guy is just one of those guys where you just go, like, yeah, he's the consummate kind of, British explorer Renaissance man template. And this is the thing about the Riverworld series. Philip Jose Farmer is great at adopting other voices. And it works pretty well in To Our Scattered Bodies Go. But here's the thing, is if you're going to read these books, and I don't know that I can suggest, I mean, Riverworld is a fun concept. It's a goofy 70s, this one in 1972, it's a goofy 70s science fiction concept. But I will say this, I've read a ton of Mark Twain. A ton. And the second and third book are told from the point of view of Mark Twain. And it's a Mark Twain who remembers his entire life and is embittered and is just very cynical. And he's trying to build a riverboat, which is amazing. It's just an amazingly goofy concept because it's exactly what Twain would try to do. And Philip Jose Farmer nails Twain's narrative voice, which is not easy. Like, it's an inherently 19th century American iconoclastic voice. And so to do that, to nail Mark Twain the way Philip Jose Farmer does, I mean, my hat's off. Like, I could take my hat off, but I'm not going to because my hair is atrocious. So I actually would argue that the Fabulous Riverboat and then whatever the third book is are inherently readable for the Twain in there. Now, here's the thing, is Philip Jose Farmer is, in this series, is a violator, a primary violator of my problem with making two-dimensional female characters and then subjecting them to sexual violence to motivate the characters you care about, who all happen to be male. That's just what he does. I can't even say, like, it's one of the things where I was just like, this is not a thing that you should be, like, I don't need this. And, like, it's another thing where it's amazing to me that this is such a thing in science fiction, but it's huge in the Riverworld. And what it does is it's actually, like, what it's meant to do is show you that Hermann Goering is a bad guy. And, like, here's the thing, like, I have news for it. If you don't know Hermann Goering is a bad guy, then, like, I don't know where you are. I don't know who you are or what's going on. Like, it's like, you don't have to establish, you don't have to establish that, like, Hermann Goering is a bad guy. You just don't. It's a given. It's a given. Like, if your bad guy is a Nazi, guess what? We got it. We get what's going on. We get that it's a bad dude. And so it's like, I don't know what else to say about that. That's the kind of thing where I will be the first person to tell you that sometimes that sexual violence against female characters can be, or sexual violence against characters in general. Like, I think it works amazingly well. I think it's an incredibly important plot point and works amazingly well in both, in the first book of the Neanderthal Paradox and in Sighting. But in this case, it's just tacked on stuff that makes you go like, oh, and it comes across to me as being clunky and outdated and kind of lazy. You know, that's the thing that bothers me most about it. Is it says to me that if you can't, it says to me that like that an author is unimaginative, because it's not the worst way to hurt a character, it's the laziest way to hurt a character. Like, and you're not even like hurting the character that you're, you know, I mean, you're just kind of like, you're like, what could motivate, like, how do I show that Hermann Goering is a bad guy? Well, he's Hermann Goering. Like, use your imagination. Like, so yeah, I didn't love it. I don't love the first book in this series. I like the second book a lot. But to get to, we got to read the inside thing, because that's the thing we do. By the way, so this particular To Your Scattered Bodies Go is actually only 200 pages of this, and the formatting is liberal, so very short book. I don't see much sense in arguing about what went on in the past, Frigate said. I think we should do something about our present situation. Burton stood up. You're right, Yank. We need roofs over our heads. Tools. God knows what else. But first I think we should take a look at the cities of the plains and see what the citizens are doing there. At that moment, Alice came through the trees on the hill above them. Frigate saw her first. He burst out laughing. The latest in ladies' wear! She had cut lengths of the grass with her scissors and plaited them into a two-piece garment. One was a sort of poncho which covered her breasts, and the other a skirt which fell to her calves. The effect was strange, though one that she should have expected. When she was naked, the hairless head still did not attract too much from her femaleness and her beauty, but with the green, bulky, and shapeless garments, her face suddenly became masculine and ugly. The other women crowded around her and examined the weaving of the grass lengths and the grass belt that secured the skirt. It's very itchy, very uncomfortable, Alice said, but it's decent. That's all I can say for it. Apparently you did not mean what you said about your unconcern with nudity in a land where all are nude, Burton said. Alice stared coolly and said, I expect that everybody will be wearing these. Every decent man and woman, that is. I suppose that Mrs. Grundy would rear her ugly head here. Mrs. Grundy would rear her ugly head here, Burton replied. It was a shock to be among so many naked people, Frigate said, even though nudity on the beach and in the private home became commonplace before I died. But it didn't take long for everyone to get used to it. Everyone except the hopelessly neurotic, I suppose. Burton swung around and spoke to the other woman. What about you, ladies? Are you going to wear those ugly and scratchy haycocks because one of your sex suddenly decides that she has private parts again? Can something that had been so public become private? Like, I don't like, yeah, I mean, there's some issues with 20th century sensibilities versus Victorian sensibilities. But one of the things about this, and it should be said, is as much as I love that Philip Jose Farmer really kind of nails Mark Twain in the later novels, Philip Jose Farmer's grasp of other aspects of history aren't grand. So, like, Philip Jose Farmer very well may have looked into the 19th century a lot to get a handle on kind of Burton and Twain. But there's a ton of interesting characters that you can, like, everybody has been resurrected. So, like, guess who's running around? Queen Elizabeth is somewhere. Queen Elizabeth is somewhere, as is Catherine the Great. Or Gilderoy is running around. Like, Gilderoy is running around. And if you're not familiar with Gilderoy, like, he fought with Joan of Arc and is the male equivalent of Elizabeth Bathory for his fame in murdering people. Like serial killer murdering people. So, or Elizabeth Bathory, who, you know, supposedly took baths in the blood of young women to keep herself young. You know, Vlad the Impaler is running around. Another guy who you don't have to establish is a bad dude. So, like, you know, and, like, so that's the thing, is, like, is the Riverworld series, like, good? It's fun. Is it great? It could be so cool. Like, you know, like, Cuchulainn is running around, and like, as is people who personally knew Jesus, right? Like, Pontius Pilate is running around, like, yeah, I mean, like, that's the kind of crazy things that could have been done. And when you think about the novel set that way, you just go, like, man, like, some guy, because it's seemingly random, so that means, like, some guy from Brooklyn in, like, the 30s could have woken up next to Pontius Pilate. And that would be amazing. Amazing. Especially if it's an Italian guy, because then there's a possibility that they could communicate, right? Right? Wait, was Pontius Pilate speak like Italian? Like, would that be the thing? Is like he's like, I'd have to look into it. But you can make those things work, right? In crazy ways, like that. And like that's the thing. So you're just like, yeah, you did Mark Twain really well, but like this series could have been so much more than it was, and that's an astonishing thing to kind of wrap your head around. Is that, like, sure, not everybody's interested in rivers, but everybody certainly is interested in how this world affects their perceptions of what the world should be like. And certainly a carpenter from Galilee 2,000 years ago is going to have a difference of opinion and a different reaction to the world around than Gilderoy, a nobleman who fought next to Joan of Arc and killed a bunch of apparently young boys. Or Catherine the Great, and I don't know a lot about, or Confucius. Like, Confucius is just up and walking. These are people we know existed, right? Like, we know Pontius Pilate existed. We know that, like, and you can make a debate about the historicity of Jesus. I would argue that like we know that some, the idea of Jesus being a like, you can argue that the life and stuff is fictionalized, but like that it seems that there's like a it's more likely that somebody lived, right? But I don't care about your religion and your religious beliefs. I'm just saying that, like, so you could easily just put that, I mean, like, I guess if you don't want to tackle with religion, you don't need to deal with the stories of, like, Muhammad, who, like, or a Jesus or a Moses or anything like that. But like I said, like, we know that Pontius Pilate existed. Like, we know we have the archaeological evidence to back that up, and we know Confucius existed. Like, we know where we have a grave for him, like a family graveyard for him. It's like a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's really cool. You should look it up. Like, and that, so, like, yeah, the idea that you focus on a couple people and then fictionalize some people from different eras, well, fine, but you've got an entire planet filled with the most interesting stories humanity has ever produced, and you focus on 2 for 4 books. I mean, you throw in some famous, interesting historical bad guys and stuff, but, like, where, like, and that's a question. It's like, where are my people? Where's the Pope who presided over the Cadaver Synod? Or where's like, this is an amazing kind of thing to deal with, and like how you contain yourself to just those 2 things and go like, yeah, good enough. Like, I did that really well. I don't know, because the series really could. And eventually there's a series, I think there's a book in the series written from the point of view of Jack London, which is another really interesting narrative voice to bring in, because we have great examples. But, like, you can make up Gilderoy's narrative voice, because we don't know. Or Joan of Arc, another person who obviously lived. Like, there's an Abraham Lincoln somewhere, and there is a George Washington somewhere, and there are all these, obviously I don't know the kind of historical, but like if you want to be, a little, if you're not catering to American audiences, then there obviously every country has its patriots, and its mythological stories about people who existed, and then there are people who clearly existed that you could tell the truth about, like things like the tall tales about like Johnny Appleseed in this country, but that was a dude, that was like a guy, right? So anyway, those are my complaints. I did to our scatter bodies go. Expect it to be a little clunky. Expect the kind of treatment of cardboard females that I don't like and kind of find to be very old-fashioned and really dated. But the narrative voice stuff is really nailed, and it might be worth a read so that you can get to the Fabulous Riverboat in the book after that and read from the point of view of Mark Twain, which I think is done really well. That is my review, and actually that is book 69 for the Hugo Award winners, which is the conclusion of the list if I don't count this year's winner, which I haven't started yet. So if I come back before I finish that book, we'll definitely be doing the Southern Reach trilogy if that's the case, and if not, then the next thing we do in this list will be a memory called Empire, and we'll continue to update it as we go. I'll see you for the next review. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.